The video that you are about to watch is an excerpt of the original. After my long efforts in dealing with YouTube's copyright management system, I had to give up. I haven't given up my projects though. And while we cannot publish the entire video here due to the imminent danger of having the channel closed down, you can still enjoy excerpts which we've carefully chosen in order to make this video meaningful, fun, and educational. If you want to watch the complete video, including the sound of the music from the original recording, as well as special edition videos which will never be published here on YouTube due to the same copyright issues, and the Beatles 150 series, as well as other series and courses, you're welcome to visit my Ko-fi or Patreon page. I hope you enjoy this video. Hi everyone! Back to Beatles, or maybe not back, forward to Beatles, because now we have moved to the next album, which is called Beatles for Sale. And the first song I'm going to listen to is actually the second one on the album, I'm a Loser. When I first read that name, just when I was handed this iPad with the information on it, which I haven't read yet, but I see the title here, I'm a Loser, I immediately thought of Creep, which I just listened to recently. I don't know if it's going to be similar, different, have no idea, but somehow the titles seemed to kind of go together. Anyway, we'll find out what it is. So, let's see what I have to read. This is the 31st in the Beatles 150 series. Well, the previous one, I said it was the 29th. I got the numbers wrong. This is the 31st. The previous one was 29. 30. I can't count. Okay. This is 31. Whatever happened before, we'll ignore it. The release date was the 4th of November, 1964. Still 1964. These guys are on a roll. And man, what a schedule that must have been. The genre is rock, folk, country. Ah, so it's not just rock or rock and roll. This is going a little more folksy. Anyone who is one of the best in his field, as Dylan is bound to influence people. This statement from John Lennon in 1964 indicated where he placed the credit for his change in songwriting style. That's why it's folk country. While other songs written earlier that year touched on aspects of the Bob Dylan sound, such as the puffing harmonica on I Should Have Known Better, the first Lennon song that is openly credited by all sources as being both musically and lyrically influenced by Dylan is this, the second track on the British Beatles for Sale album, I'm a Loser. This is not to say that Dylan was the only inspiration for the song, nor is it to say that Bob himself didn't take a little inspiration from the Beatles as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we influenced him in some way, was how John continued the above quote. Influence they did. The result being Dylan's March 1965 album, Bringing It All Back Home. Okay, so Beatles have released 2 albums in 64. I don't remember if Dylan released something in 64, but anyway, right away, March 65, he releases an album which apparently was influenced by the Beatles, which included a whole album side with an electric band, something that alienated many of Bob Dylan's fans, but brought him into the mainstream. So back and forth trading of ideas happening. We used to listen to a lot of country and western songs, McCartney related in 1994. And they were all about sadness and I lost my truck. So it was quite acceptable to sing, I'm a Loser. Okay, this is more country style, I'm a Loser. You really didn't think about it at the time. It was only later you'd think, God, that was pretty brave of John. I'm a Loser was pretty much John's song, and there may have been a dabble or two from me. Instead of projecting myself into a situation, John explained about the song, I would try to express what I felt about myself. I think it was Dylan who helped me realize that. I guess I remember this quote from a few songs ago when I read it for the first time, and here it is showing up again. So John is very much aware of what he's doing musically here and how he's being influenced by Dylan. Lennon was interviewed regarding his first book, In His Own Right, by famous British journalist Kenneth Alsop on March 23, 1964, for the BBC television show Tonight. While in the green room at BBC's Lime Grove studios on this day, Alsop discussed John's songwriting. Many years later, Lennon discussed this meeting with friend Elliot Mintz, who explains their conversation, saying, Alsop had, in essence, said to him that he wasn't terribly enamored with Beatles songs because they all tended to be, she loves him, he loves her, they love her, and I love her. Well, I've been through a whole lot of those, so I can understand his point. He suggested to John that he try to write something more autobiographical, based on a personal experience rather than these abstract images. That struck a chord with him. That's me in my Dylan period, Lennon himself explained in 1980. Part of me suspects I'm a loser, and part of me thinks I'm God Almighty. Although he laughed after saying these words, the song itself helps us to suspect what he may have been feeling beneath this mask. I'm a Loser appeared on American record players in December of 1964 as testimony to what their fans could expect from here on out. It was as if the Beatles were telling fans to either accept where they were going artistically or find someone else to follow. American audiences, as well as fans around the world, wisely chose to hang on for an amazing 6-year ride. This sounds pretty significant and important in their musical progress. So, let's listen.
I'm a loser.
Certainly different. Very much. I pick up the country flavor, the country vibe. I hear the classic country strumming, and even the drums are kind of just keeping a country style beat. There's the harmonica in there, and right off the bat at the beginning, this I'm a loser intro line. Also, his voice, his vocal style, he's tending more towards the country style ornamentation of notes and a little bit of sliding here and there that I associate with the bits of country music I've heard around in my life. And the guitar strums in there every once in a while, kind of like a little banjo interjection. It certainly has this country twang to it. Now, let's go back through and pull it apart a bit.
I'm a loser.
I like this opening. I like the way we really feel this. Well, it's interesting here. Let's see if I can make this better. These two chords. We're in the key of G. And it's been interesting to see their introductions to their songs along the way. And as I have commented, a lot of them seem to be kind of ambiguous about key center, tonality. This one is more direct. It doesn't hand us the G major chord right away. In fact, I don't think we really end up with the G major chord until here. That's a little ways ahead. But it does start setting us up with immediately the sounds of a progression that moves towards one. What is that? Well, in the key of G, this is our home chord. In the key of G, D major is the dominant, which takes us home. Now, very, very often, as we are moving through a sequence which ends up with this dominant to home, the preceding chord before the dominant ends up being the 2, which in this case would be A minor. And so we might hear something like A minor, D major, to G. You can easily imagine that coming at the end of a song and bringing everything, wrapping everything up, closing it securely to end it. Well, here we start with this 2, the A minor, to the 5, the dominant D. And so we have I'm a loser, which is such a great starting point. First of all, the other thing I love is that we end up with a minor chord on this downbeat of the word loser. And I noticed some really great word painting moments in this song along the way, where a pitch or a chord, even though it's so country in style, simple harmonies, simple progressions, still they manage to get these moments where everything lines up to paint or enhance the lyrics, the text of the song. This is right off the bat one of those moments. I'm a loser, and it's minor, and it's sweetly painful, and it's held out this long note to really drive it home. He is calling it out. I'm a loser. I feel like saying, yeah, honey.
I'm a loser.
I'm a loser. And then, the way he escapes from this note, loser, is downwards. The next time, I'm a loser, he moves up. Again, a slight variation.
I'm a loser.
Bless your heart.
I'm a loser.
Oh, yes. And so we jump right into the tempo here, upbeat. If the lyrics were different, I could say it sounded kind of cheery, celebratory, kind of upbeat and not too concerned about anything. It's kind of different when we put the words with it, because then we start thinking, okay, he's not sitting here crying, but this music is more a storytelling vibe. He's sitting here telling us his story, and he's kind of self-involved. You know how somebody is when they talk about themselves, their feelings, and their experiences, and they're so engaged in it and happy to be expressing themselves. They could be talking about a beautiful day outside, you know? It's this vibrancy, this energy, which they invest in the story. And the music kind of gives us that feeling of he's telling us a loser story. But he's not just sitting there sobbing and feeling heartbroken. It's more like he's telling it because he has a story to tell.
All the love I have.
I kind of like this line. Da da dum, da da dum, da da dum. It just has this nice rise and fall, kind of going along, telling the story. And then, what's coming up? Da 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 dum, dum. Okay, so da 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 dum, da 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 dum, bum.
I have one, I'll have.
Right. Da da dum, bum 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 bum. What's he doing here? He's going so low, you can actually hear him struggling to get down there. He's like, crossed, can we get my voice to go? He lands it nice and square, but you can feel the effort in his voice to get that far down his range. That's one of the things I noticed, is the wide range in this song. Well, this is a G here. This is the next G down here. That's an octave between these two notes. And this G, the upper one, is kind of on the lower end of the song, pitch-wise. Da-da-dum, 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 da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-dum, bum, 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 bum. That's the G. Da-da-da-da-da-dum, bum, bum, bum. It's the lowest note of that first phrase. And then suddenly, he goes way below it, down to the next G. On what word? This is one of those word painting moments. Should never have crossed. Crossed. There's this feeling of, this is expressing how down a loser he is. He's down at the bottom. He's lost his image or his reputation in front of this girl, or for whatever reason, he's lost this girl and he is down at the bottom. Oh, I love this little dee-dee-dee-bum. Is it written in here? Dee-dee-dum-bum. Maybe it's kind of supposed to be this, but it doesn't really sound like it. But it's that little twangy guitar. Dee-dee-dum-bum. Could almost be banjo, right? It's this country feel. And here again, in the end, way down at the bottom, in the end. And suddenly, we're launched to the top. I'm a loser! Is he celebrating? Is this some exciting, I'm a loser? No, it's more like a call, an announcement, presenting myself. I am a loser! Everybody look at me! I'm a loser! I've lost the best girl I ever met. So suits the country music subject line.
In the end.
I love the way the bass steps in there right on that note to help him out. Listen to it.
Beneath this mask.
It's as if he said, look, I'm struggling to get this. Can you just give me a little extra support there? Boing. Right on time.
I'm wearing.
It has this little image of the bass being the frown. I have to say I enjoyed that moment. Just probably too much.
Beneath.
Again, cry. Down at the bottom. These moments when he drops down there are exactly on words that it enhances their meaning, it darkens them, it gives them a lower feel. It really expands our imagination and paints what the text is portraying.
Myself.
One thing I'm noticing harmonically, not the harmonica, chordal harmonically, is that, well, I mentioned the A minor to the D at the beginning, which actually is something which seems to have been drawn from the chorus, because we have it right here. We have this A minor. By the way, the bass walking around in this chorus is really fun. And then it moves to D. Okay, so that's 2 to 5. Now it shows A minor again, to D again. Okay, all fine and good. And then, naturally, as I showed you on the harp at the beginning, what comes after the minor 2 and the major 5? Usually a major 1. And sure enough, that's exactly what we get here, a G major. But then it carries us on. We have E minor, A minor. Here is where it gets interesting. I'm actually going to change the color of my pencil here just to point it out. This, which shows up multiple times in this song. This chord here. Why is it so interesting? It's because in the key of G major, we have F sharp. So if we're going to play a chord built off of F, it would sound something like that. Instead, most of the times when they play a chord built off of F, they make it a bit lower. It's the flat 7, makes it major. Kind of takes it out of the major key tonality though, because a major key always has that raised 7. At least the classic major scale. Gives it more of a modal feel, just a hint. Although if I'm listening to the melody, I don't hear the melody as modal. I hear it really established in G. But the harmonies underneath has this little modal element. And then, here's where it gets really, we could say, delicious. Because this, as I said, it's such a simple country style song, but it has some great moments included in it. One of which is the fact that this flat 7 is placed right up against the major 5. One after the other. How does this sound? From there to here. Kind of a little bit clashy, because this note is this pitch in the first chord, and then it's this pitch in the second chord. And I've talked a lot about how neighbor notes, very close neighbor notes, semitones, as in this case, they give this clashing feeling. I could place it like this. Let's do this. And while they're not playing at the same moment here, we have one chord which is built off of this one, and the next chord which has the other one in it. And because they're so close together, we have this feeling of spice built into the harmonies. Maybe we're not clear about what really is happening, but we feel the effect anyway. We feel the impact, this sort of spicy, sizzly moment in the music. When he says, up here, on pier, that's the lower flat 7. To B, that's the raised note in the 5. It comes and goes so quickly. Isn't it interesting how the different sections of this piece of music have a very different feel to them? The tempo is the same. It's kind of going along, but between the chorus, which has the harmonies and it feels stronger and more vibrant, and then the verse, da dum bum 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 dee da dum. If he just gave it a little more legato, what would it sound like? Dee 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 dum, dee dee da, dee dee dum, dee 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 dum, dee dee dum, bum bum bum. I can't sing that note even as well as he did. That's okay. But you hear how built into the verse there's this really kind of rich undertone. And while he doesn't fill it out, it really wouldn't suit to fill it out. But it still exists there, and we sense it and we feel it. It's another one of those musical unspokens that exists, and we feel it, and it gives it this warmth and depth, and also a little bit more melancholy than the chorus. Right, this moment. It's so cliche. Pride comes before a fall. And so it's true, pride comes before a fall. So preachy and moralizing and cliche and country.
I have left it too late.
Telling you so that you won't lose all. Everything about this, it's not quite a country song because it's still kind of rock, but it has so many country elements or suggestions of country attitudes, country music attitudes, that it's just written all over it. Country, 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 country. Whether it's the moralizing lines or the twangy banjo or the, well, I talked about these little harmonic elements, but this song doesn't even try to modulate. It keeps the same chord progression pretty much all the way through and repeats it over and over. Country music isn't known for being very harmonically adventurous. So even that simple, repetitive chord structure screams country at us. And of course, the topic. I'm a loser. Let me tell you all about it now.
And you so that you
I like the bass. And then it's over. A great song, a fun song. Imagine having a fun song being about a loser. Well, it's still 1964. And I can hear the personal expression coming through this rather than trying to figure out how many different ways I can turn the love story on its head and still sing about it. This is more genuine, we could say. It feels to me like it's a young fellow hanging with his friends at a truck and tractor pull. You might be shocked to know that I know what such a thing is, but I do. I live in the South. I live in Tennessee. Truck and tractor pulls, the country kids, they love them. They're hanging out there and they're expressing themselves, they're doing their thing, and there are always some who are more losers than others. And they don't show much shame about it. It's all part of their personality and their social life and expression, and they all, they kind of have each other's back, but there's always this sort of, sometimes it's even jockeying for being the greatest loser. This song gives me that kind of vibe, which also suits the country scene. Anyway, I can certainly hear a different sound, a different style emerging. This is not the harmonic complexity of I'll Be Back or the melodic thematic development of I'll Be Back. But this is a personal expression style and exploring. Clearly they were very successful putting it in this sort of country music setting, which is not something that I've heard them do a lot, at least to this extent. I don't know, will they do more like this? Or was this just their one shot at it and then they moved to something else? Regardless, it sounds very well put together. And Lennon's voice, this is clearly a Lennon song, and Lennon's voice, probably it's partly the recording studio setup and the producing side of things, but I hear Lennon's voice getting more and more vibrant, getting a clarity and a confidence, an expressiveness, a flexibility, subtle shading and coloring within notes and lines, which I didn't hear so much in the earlier songs a while back. Probably it's partly the recording strategy. Probably it's partly him maturing as a musician as well. But his voice sounds really good in this song. It has a vibrancy, a clarity, and an energy to it, which is very arresting. It grabs you and it makes you listen. At the same time, it's very natural. It doesn't have any put on or practiced feel to it. It comes across as just being what it is. And that gives it a very comfortable, easy appeal. A great song. As I said, I enjoyed it. Celebrating being a loser. Not really celebrating, just indulging ourselves in our loser qualities for a little bit. I'll see you next time.